Just to let you know, guys, I'm here at the Balkan protest camp here with Ian R. Crane, and just to get the basics of hydraulic fracturing, just for those of you who don't know what it is. So, Ian, what exactly is hydraulic fracturing?
Well, hydraulic fracturing is the technique of extracting oil, or in this case gas, from tight geology. It's called unconventional gas. In other words, you cannot extract it by using the normal technology, which is simply drilling a well, opening up the well to the target geology, and then the hydrocarbons flowing into the well under natural pressure. In tight geology, which is a very good description for it, because the geology is very, very compact, so it basically hangs on to the hydrocarbons that it's held captive for literally millennia. And then man comes along in his arrogance and says, but we have a technology that will release those hydrocarbons. So the technology that's been developed is drilling horizontally from the vertical shaft, and a short horizontal section of approximately sort of 300-400 yards or so is drilled in each direction around the compass, about 8 horizontal wells per vertical shaft. But then these wells, when they're opened up to the target geology, in this case the shale, then they have to be fractured. In other words, artificial porosity has to be created, because if you just opened up the well as in a conventional well, then nothing's really going to happen. So you've got to create artificial porosity, and this is done by pumping, on average, about anything between 2 and 4 million gallons of water. So there's a phenomenal water usage in this, water that we don't have in this country, which is certainly one of the primary concerns, and that's a concern that isn't being discussed in the mainstream media. So water is pumped along with sand and about 5% chemical additive, and it's this chemical cocktail that's added that really is the biggest part of the problem, because let's say it's 2 million gallons. Each pad will have 8 of these wells. That's 16 million gallons. There's 6 to 8 pads per square mile. That's say 100 million gallons. 5% of that is 50 million gallons. So that's 5 million gallons. That's potentially 5 million gallons of toxicity that's being pumped into the geology, and half of that is lost. Half of it is unrecoverable. So the half that is recoverable is another problem, because that will also have some of the debris that's been fracked out of the geology. And then there's the issue of disposal of that. It's called produced water, but of course it's not water. It's not only water plus the chemicals, it's now plus the potentially radioactive debris that's come out of the target geology. So they've got to dispose of that. That's another issue. You've got the consumption of the water, a mega issue in this country. And then you've got the biggest problem of all, which is the fact that half of the frac fluid is lost to the geology. And of course what it does is it creates artificial porosity between the target geology and the adjoining geology. And then that allows the gas that's been trapped for millennia to start migrating. And it'll migrate, it'll work its way through the geology, it'll find the path of least resistance, it'll find its way into the underground aquifers, it'll find its way up through the soil, it'll contaminate the soil, and then eventually it'll find its way into the atmosphere, and it'll contaminate the atmosphere. So in places like Colorado, New Mexico, where this process has been used for 2 decades, whole parts of the country are effectively uninhabitable. People can't drink the water, they can't grow crops, they can't raise livestock. In Pennsylvania, where they've been doing it for somewhat less time, they're now experiencing the same issues that have occurred in Colorado and New Mexico. In Queensland, in Australia, where they've only been doing this for about 5 or so years, the same issue. So the reality is that wherever this process is used in the world, it has resulted in the contamination of the water, the soil and the air, and of course that leads to some very significant negative health effects on the part of the residents. Now in the UK, we're a lot more densely populated than places like western Colorado, northern New Mexico, North Texas, and even Pennsylvania. The population density here is something like 20 times that of Colorado, and never in the history of hydraulic fracturing has this process been unleashed on such a densely populated environment. We haven't even got on to the issue of the logistics, the fact that every pad is going to require something in the region of 3,000 to 4,000 truck movements in the course of its life. We've only got to look down the road here and see the damage to the highway with just a handful of trucks turning into the gate. So it doesn't matter how you look at this process, there is absolutely no way this should be unleashed in this country, or for that matter anywhere else. But for the time being, let's focus on the UK.
That's good, man. Well, thank you very much, dude.
Okay.
So
Thanks a lot.
meet you again.
Hey, and thanks for helping spread the word.
You're very welcome. Take care, dude.
All right.